As most people state, it's about the journey, not the destination. I know. How much more cliche could a video intro be? But it seems at the age of 25, I find myself reflecting back on this saying more often than not. When I was 15, I had no idea what I wanted to accomplish and do with my life, as most kids that age don't. Funny enough, I still don't know exactly what I want to do with my life. But I have learned to appreciate the processes that I've been through and everything that I've accomplished so far. The start of my cinematography and photography career began at a very young age, and I didn't even realize that until I was making this video. I was around 9 years old when I produced my very own nonsense videos. My friends and I would set up an old MacBook and create scenes thinking that we would be the next jackass. Even though these videos had little meaning at the time, they actually played a really important role in forming my passion. At 15, I was sent my first camera, a GoPro. Not quite like this one, I think it was a Hero 2. Looking back, this camera played a very important start to the beginning of my career. I could bring this pocket-sized camera with me along all of my adventures that I was not able to capture previously. Most of the content that I was creating at the time was ocean-based, but the process was simple. Go out, shoot something gnarly, and then have a laugh about it with friends. During the early GoPro days, I would spend a lot of time just alone searching for the next scene to be captured. Going out and shooting things with intention was my next step up. This was probably along the same time that my sister had seen something in me and helped me pick out my first DSLR camera. That new piece of equipment only boosted my drive to go out and capture and create. With new technical advances, my creative abilities just began to expand. It's kind of the similar routine as the GoPro. Grab the camera, go out, shoot, only with a little more intention. This camera had also grown my love for landscape photography. At this point, I was growing heavily interested in photography and videography, and now others began to like what they were seeing me put out. These early days of creative work weren't the prettiest, but they had me going with one foot in front of the other. My sister let me shoot her maternity photos, which led to friends asking me to capture their visions. All of the shoots that I was doing at this time were free, but that built such a huge foundation for everything that was to follow. I think my first paid gig was shooting a friend's birthday party that was a Great Gatsby theme. Shout out to Danielle if you're watching this video for trusting me with that first gig. All 4 years during high school, I had the plan of going to college, but couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do when I got there. So when I graduated, I enrolled at a local community college just to get the prerequisites out of the way, since I had nothing dialed in at that point. While attending my first semester, I was still doing the same things: surfing, jumping off bridges, and shooting some paid gigs. I worked at a few different restaurants to pay for school and living needs. I only lasted one full semester of college before hitting the second one and was like, this is not for me. At this point, people were really beginning to love my personal art and my creative just process and began reaching out with new opportunities. I captured a photo of my friend surfing a hand-shaped fish surfboard with a fish in the wave. This photo was featured in the Pacific Longboard magazine. I'm still not quite sure how that photo made it into that publication, just because that Pacific Longboarder magazine is based out of Australia on the other side of the world. But this was my first feature in a magazine, and I kind of thought to myself, I might really be able to do this thing. Around the same time, my friend Mason started his own company and asked me to help him out with some creative work. After working on a few shoots together, he offered me a role as a creative director, which helped me stop working random side gigs. This is a huge moment in time for me. With his previous set work on commercial projects and my willingness to learn, we created many projects for the business. A position like this was much needed for me to build my skill set. He made me set up calendars, creative briefs, storyboarding, all of this stuff that I really didn't want to do because everything based up to that point was just guerrilla, run and gun, point and shoot style. While I was working with Mason and his company, I was still shooting personal projects on the weekends. A lot of this personal work on the weekends was actually shooting real estate photography with my friend Joya. She had a full-blown photography business for real estate and brought me in to help with the workload. With more work on my plate and a growing list of personal clients, I ended up leaving the full-time creative director role to pursue my own business. I was a self-sustaining photographer for around a year in 2019. Life kind of has this tendency when everything seems to be going right, just one thing falls out of place, and this seemed to happen right in this moment. That one wrong was COVID. Like many businesses and individuals, I suffered with the pandemic. These frustrations led to a change. I ended up moving away from home in Florida to Wyoming with no real intention. It is fair to mention that this negative thing turned out to be one of the most positive blessings I've ever received. After working full-time as a creative director and just filling a lot of my own personal time with shoots, I was totally burnt out and didn't even realize it. When I moved to Wyoming, I got a hospitality job at the Four Seasons. Wyoming is one of the most beautiful states. New views and adventures offered a refreshing reset. I fell back in love with photography simply by just creating work for myself. I found so many new things to love, like snowboarding, hiking, and mountaineering. All of these activities are huge parts of my life right now. It was also just fun to be a beginner at something in life again. With one foot in front of the other, I worked my way back up and reshaped the values of my life. While living in Wyoming, I actually shot a few weddings, one of them funny enough being a friend from Florida. One of my bosses at the Four Seasons even let me shoot a video for her in Wyoming. Being away from home forced me to network and get out of my comfort zone. While Wyoming didn't solidify any of my future plans, it taught me how to respect and love the journey that you're on, even if that means to just keep on keeping on. Family trouble and personal hard times led me to move back to Florida in 2023. I thought it would be an easy breeze picking up right where I left off at the beginning of COVID. I still had the same clients, friends, and everyone supporting me through this creative journey, but everything still kind of felt off. Many days at the beach I was spent thinking about the mountains and the times that I had in Wyoming. After a brief summer in Florida, 2 friends and I packed our bags and decided to head to Central Oregon. Again, this wasn't a practical thing as I would be starting from scratch in a whole new area, but I was excited for the journey anyways. And thanks to my hospitality experience, I was able to land a job at a high-end resort right away just to pay the bills. And while this wasn't my favorite medium of work, I realized that I was happier than ever just to be out in the mountains and exploring new places. My first winter out in Bend, Oregon couldn't have gone any smoother. My friend that I had met in Jackson was working as a marketing manager for this local ski company. After doing a test trial shoot, I was booked up for the winter creating content on the slopes. This is one of those moments that I had been waiting so long for. Putting together my passions into one practice led to the most memorable experiences. This type of work was so refreshing and increased my drive to explore this niche. During the spring of 2024, I shot some local business stuff as the mountain shoots came to a close. Summer of 2024 was a huge win in my eyes. Even though I set out a few goals that I'd like to accomplish over the summer with photography and videography, I ended up traveling and had the best time ever. I grew up on the East Coast and I always wanted to explore the West Coast, and this was the perfect summer to do that. Cassidy booked our summer up exploring these special places. We hit San Francisco, Yosemite, Mexico, and while we weren't out exploring those further destinations, we were exploring all these beautiful nooks and crannies of Central Oregon. All of these trips were mind expanding and allowed me to work on some more advanced skills for personal projects. And now I'm still living in Oregon. I'm not the famous photographer that I once thought I wanted to be, but I have learned to find peace in the ebbs and flows along this journey. The connections, experiences, and people met over this journey have all been so worth it. By simply having this passion, I have been able to accomplish more than I ever dreamed of. And though this career aspect has dipped in and out for the passion, I am incredibly happy to be living this exact life. Funny enough, just by being in this industry, crazy things happen all the time. Just a few days ago, I had saw a photographer that I followed in Jackson post something in the Bend, Oregon area. Since those days and living in Jackson, I always admired his ski photography, his brand photography, and everything along those lines. He was actually calling for a model cast, and I swiped up saying, hey, if you can't find anyone, let me know and I'm down to help out. This allowed me to land my first ever modeling gig. I'm not even a model, but it was an amazing experience and I got paid for it. I do believe that I'm in the right place and that staying true to your passion is rewarding in many different ways. Stay true to the things that you love and good will follow. And of course, there will always be some hiccups along the way, but when you look back and see all that you have accomplished, I'm sure that you'll be proud. Just keep on keeping on. I am so sorry if that was the worst video you've ever watched. I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm sitting in my room right now and I feel crazy. I've stuttered on thousands of words. This took forever to do. I usually go out, shoot videos, instant create. Didn't realize how hard it was to be on this side of the camera.